gentlemen, welcome back in the zone. Rich Sutter, Pete Coles, the dynamic duo. We are now in mourning because the basketball season has officially concluded for the year. This starts a brief mourning period. Don't worry, folks. We'll have a great summer. Right now, you want to talk about summer, Pete. We're getting a big shot of summer out here in Massachusetts. 90s all week this week. Unbelievable.
All the way up into Maine, man.
Beautiful weather. All the way up into Maine. There's a big old heat bubble hanging right over the eastern coast right now, and I'll be honest with you, I love it. I absolutely love the heat. I don't like the cold, and personally, I think you get to complain about one season. So I'm going to stick with the cold. Pete is back from Alabama.
You don't like the snow.
The snow globe effect is not, it's dizzying for me. I really love the beach and the hot weather. But Pete is back from Alabama and just did a midnight run. So we're going to catch him off guard here a little bit. But Pete, talk about the series a little bit because you were the guy that called it. And if any of you people that happen to visit Mohegan Sun or any of those casinos where you might plunk $1 or $2 down, In the Zone's been right on point with you. I mean, Pete gave you the Celtics in 5, and I gave you Jaylen Brown as the MVP. I'm
telling you, I'm the Celtics jinx. The only game I was able to catch, they got blown out. I decided after that I wasn't going to watch any more basketball, and they won the series the next game.
And they went Moses Malone because there was some kind of thing here that I was, I looked at and I just wasn't 100% sure. I didn't have a chance to research it. But the Celtics record in this playoff was unbelievable. They lost 3 games. They were 16-3, I want to say. A terrific run right through the whole thing. But I thought that Moses Malone's team went in undefeated and went through, as he said, foe. But the Celtics went through this one pretty quickly. As we talked to, if you look at UConn and the way that they handled their business in the NCAA tournament, and now look at the Celtics, it's a very, very good time for New England basketball right now. It's a really, really good time. So, Pete,
I saw a graphic that the only team that was better overall record-wise, percentage-wise, was one of the Larry Bird teams. And it was only by a game or two that they edged them out, this Celtics team.
I could imagine. And the really good news for the people in Boston, well, there's a lot of good news. So let's just unpack a little bit of that good news for the people in Boston. Because if you're a basketball fan, you're a Celtics fan, you've kind of been waiting for this one a long time. I think it was 2008, the last time that they won. So you've been waiting for this one a long time. This one has to be satisfying for the Boston fans, though, because they were dominant. There wasn't a moment during the season or during the playoffs here where they were not the most dominant team in the league this year.
Yep.
And the really, really exciting news for Celtics fans is Jaylen Brown is under 27. Jason Tatum is under 27. Porzingis is 27 or under. Jrue Holiday, boy, did he have a great series. We're going to talk about him a little bit in depth because, as I alluded to in a previous week's show, we thought Jrue Holiday was the real turn here for the Celtics. That trade that was made by Brad Stevens, I thought that was a really, really significant point in the season. And we're going to go back in the show and come back, Pete, where we're going to come back to the Celtics and go in depth with the series a little bit, talk about what happened, talk about the playoffs, talk about the future for the Celtics, because right now they're entering into the draft with position number 30, which makes it difficult to think that you would find an impact player, although the Joker was taken in the second round. So you can always find that superstar that's out there if you hustle, do your work, and figure it out. But we're going to jump right in with the NCAA fish to start. And a couple of things happening with the NCAA, a little bit of quiet time right now. As we alluded to also, the NIL has kept NCAA basketball alive, though, in the postseason. The portal has kept NCAA basketball alive as relevance in the postseason.
Yep.
And it's done that well. You know, if you're a college basketball fan, there's still a lot going on out there. There's still almost half of the portal still hasn't gone anywhere. And so some of them won't be going anywhere. Some of them might be going down on the escalator, but there's a good portion of the portal. We'll give you the official numbers on that as we go through. But there's a good part of the portal that hasn't gone anywhere yet. And that probably requires a little bit more conversation at another time in another show. Because right now, it's just absolute. People have had all different names for it, but college basketball right now is absolutely upside down. The rich are getting richer, and the poor are absolutely getting beat into oblivion.
I know in baseball they call it the hot stove league. What do they call it? The Frigidaire season for NCAA?
I would say that it's going to be a very small icebox this year because they're pumped up, ready to go, and in September they'll have camps opening up and practices going on. Right now, also what you have on college campuses, it's actually interesting. If you can get the coaching staff to allow you, you could probably walk in. They're allowed to practice. They're allowed to gather in small groups. So if you wound up on their campus and you wound up in the gym, you probably see one of their assistant coaches working a small group of their players out, getting their talents up, getting ready for next year. That begins right now. The AAU circuit is in absolute live fashion right now, what they call the live period for Division I coaches, which is always the marquee time of the summer. And all of the great players that are out there right now trying to earn their spot, trying to move up the ladder, trying to get, because right now you are playing for dollars. You're going to try and get a better NIL deal as you move up in the summer, and this is the time when that will happen.
Yep.
This will be the time where some people will really, really go up the ladder and blow up, as they say. And there'll be some times where there's some grab and some tug on some different people as well that they might have thought was a little bit better. And then maybe, as they say, water finds its level. A lot of that will happen where different players start out at a little bit of a higher level, but then as the summer goes and all of these exhausting games, because it is exhausting. I've been at these tournaments, and I can tell you that it's exhausting for me as a coach. Stand there all day, evaluate talent all day, try and keep my eyes focused and ready to go. I could only imagine what it's like as a young player trying to earn your keep. You got 6 games a day, 5 games a day in this grueling heat. I don't think that's really healthy for anybody, but it's going on all over the country right now, and there's a lot to it. Again, big business is hitting everywhere. The dollar is jumping everywhere. So you're looking at parents now who are going to an AAU tournament to watch their own son or daughter, not just to show up and be a fan, but to actually go in with one of the participants. And they don't have a guest pass list in the summer. So these parents are paying upwards of $100, $200 each to get into the tournament as a pass. So you've got to take your family out, and most likely there's probably some cost associated with being associated with that AAU team.
Oh yeah, it's usually in thousands of dollars.
It depends. The great players don't pay at all. It's just like prep school. The great players don't pay at all, and then they have all of these other beneficiaries who are paying for the great players, and they go there with a dream and they go there with their hopes. But make no mistake about it, that's how the finances of it are working. So when you're looking at prep schools or you're looking at this AAU program, there is some cost that goes into it. Let's just say for 90% of the people there. And then you have the parents who want to follow and watch. And so the parents now are going out and they're making up all sorts of hotel arrangements, possibly rental cars, and then to get hit with $100, $200 entry fee to go in. I mean, it's really, really staggering. And right now you're pricing some families out of the game. You're absolutely pricing some families right out of the game. They will not have the full ability to participate in their son's or daughter's experience because you all have priced them out of the game.
We have the same problem with youth softball and baseball. These kids have state tournaments, regional tournaments, and then the World Series. So a lot of people can't afford to come to the World Series. That's why we started streaming a lot of that stuff.
Right. And I have a friend who's involved in that stuff on a really grassroots level. And he's in New York, and they don't hold Little League games on Saturday anymore, Pete, because they can't get all the players there because they're all in these tournaments. They're all in these AAU-sponsored tournaments where you think you're going to get seen by college coaches.
Yep.
I'm going to give parents a little bit of a heads up right here. Most of those tournaments that occur do not occur during the live period, which means there will be no Division I coach at your game at all. Now, again, You can stream them. You can watch them online, different stuff like that. But most coaches that I know are still getting out there trying to press it and get in there and see people play live under pressure, under constraint. And so what I would say to the parents is get a hold of that D1 schedule. Look at it. And if you're hopeful that your son or daughter is going to get seen by a Division I or Division II coach, adhere to that schedule. If you're looking some time off for your family when you're going to vacation and it's going to cause your son or daughter to miss a few tournaments, look at that schedule and go around it. Because there's times where the NCAA Division I coaches are not even allowed out on the road. And you show up at your tournament expecting that place will be full of coaches ready to evaluate and sign your son or daughter to a scholarship. Not going to happen during the dead period. Not going to happen while they're not allowed out on the road. Find out when they're allowed out on the road and you'll be helping yourself, maybe saving yourself a few dollars. I wanted to just say that because that's a lot of money. And I wanted to help parents out there if they can. Look at the schedule. If you really think your son or daughter is going to be seen, do it when it's possible. Do it when it's absolutely possible. And even talk to your AAU coach about that as well, too. Say, we're more interested in tournaments, where there's a possibility he's going to get seen or she's going to get seen. Don't tell us to go sign up for these tournaments that are out in all these very, very remote rural places. We have to travel. We have to go there. And then all of a sudden we get there and there's not a chance there's going to be a college coach in the place because they're during a dead period. So take a look at the schedule. Inform yourselves, become informed citizens. You think you make better decisions when you're informed. All right, Pete, right off the get, I wanted to jump this out because we think this young man's terrific. And he was involved in some stuff legally that became a problem during the season. It caused him to miss some games. And it was a sexual assault allegation that was levied against Terrence Shannon from the University of Illinois in an incident that happened when he was in Kansas. So he was acquitted. He was found not guilty, went to trial, and he was found not guilty. I'm really, really happy that this took place prior to the draft.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that this took place prior to the spot where he's going to go up and try and ply his wares. One way or the other, if he had been found guilty, NBA teams should know that. NBA teams should have that information so they can make that decision if they want to take that draft option when a lot of their fan base, a lot of the people that come to those arenas are women. And so you want to be very careful about that as well from a marketing perspective.
Yep.
But if found not guilty, and that's really relevant too, because the guilty plea or something that was more in the ethers, something that wasn't as clear cut as this is right now, that would have harmed him as well too. So
if he had taken a plea deal or something like that, you'd say, well, he wasn't found guilty, but he accepted responsibility, and that's a gray area.
And so many people don't want to go through a court process and don't have the money to go through a court process.
Right.
Maybe the NIL saved this kid. Maybe the NIL saved him because he had money to get good representation and prove his innocence.
Yep.
And so whatever the outcome was, I wasn't rooting for an outcome one way or the other. I just wanted an outcome.
Yep.
I wanted this to be brought to resolution prior to the draft. I'm excited about that. That's something to cheer for. It's also good for the NBA scouts because we had him, I think, in the 17 spot. And I think I'm going to leave him there, but he's really talented, really, really good. On an NBA open floor, he's going to be terrific. I did think his size, 6'4", 6'5", when the shoes came off and the SID bump 3 inches came off. When all that came to do, 6'5", he's very athletic, though. He can get to the basket and really do some good stuff and can score away from the basket. So he brings that nice 1-2 punch. So I think Terrence Shannon is celebrating. Here's the other piece of it. We went over 12 names in the green room last week that they had, invited to the green room. Now, this draft is so out of control right now, and it's why we wanted to do ours last week, to give people a time to evaluate and really look at that draft, because this draft is so out of control right now. Their green room, Pete, is now up to 24 people.
Ooh.
They've invited 24 people to the green room,
Gonna
and
get a little
they seem to be just pulling them out of their hat right now. I mean, there's guys in there that have no shot to be drafted in the top 12, and they're bringing them into the green room. So I don't get it.
Are they trying to muddy the waters or something?
I think they don't know. And I think they want as many people on hand as they can because there's going to be some surprises in this draft. There's going to be some NBA people making either a head scratcher you know, or a chin rubber. You know, you go, oh, I see what they were doing there. Or you're going to scratch your head and go, oh my God, what were they thinking about? And only time will bear that out. Only time's really going to bear that out. And so we're excited to watch the draft coming up. We're excited to be in a few days now. And we're excited to see the fortunes of these young men come out. But we've been pretty solid all year long, and we really love our top three. And you could move our top three either way and get into a position, our top four, I would say. You could move them either way. You could move the 4 to 1 and 1 to 4, and it wouldn't change things a whole lot, especially if you went by positional need, you know, that you really need. But I think Ron Holland could be a number 1 pick. I am really, really high on this young man. I think he's the best basketball player in the draft. Jaden Ledee.
Even over Edie?
He's a better basketball player than Edie, but he is not the physical talent that Zach Edie has. So I wanted to make that clarification. And Pete, thanks for calling me on that, because this is, when I say basketball player, this is without regard to size, without regard to anything. What would make him the best player in this draft from a basketball perspective is purely upon the decisions that he makes while he's out on the basketball floor. And after watching him play in the G League and seeing some clips of him, he's unbelievable.
So his basketball IQ is really high.
Very, very high, backed with really good athleticism. Now, he's 6'8". Klingon is 7'2". Edie is 7'5". They both have a substantial wingspan that's going to be a presence in the NBA to change and block shots. That's going to be a big, big tell. Holland could be the next best player. Alex Sarr is in there. I would probably take, I don't know, I might take, depending upon positional needs, I might take Holland over Sarr too. This international class doesn't do it for me right now. It really doesn't do it for me. Here's something I wanted to jump into with our NCAA fish as well, Pete, because this is something we've talked about on the show, something we've been interested in, and something we scratch our heads at a lot on the show. But Congress has kind of gotten themselves involved in this a little bit, in the NIL, in the pursuing of where it's going to try and create a situation where college athletes, college students are considered employees. And this is the real rub in this whole thing for me, okay? I'm okay with paying them. I'm even okay with paying them lots and lots of money if that's what you think they're worth. And if you have the money and that's the way it's getting spread around, I'm even okay with that, although less okay with that than we could have been with some other really logical, well-placed, and well-timed, and well-sequenced set of events that would set this thing on a better path than it was on. But instead, the doors have just been kicked open by lawfare. The courts are now running the NCAA. The court is running the court, and it's really, really out of control. Here's been a little bit of a fire back, and it's interesting how this broke out. Maybe not so interesting if you follow politics closely, but it's the College Athlete Employment Bill. And it sounds like they're in favor of it, but they're not. They're the ones it's a congressional committee, and the committee is the Education and Workforce Committee, where all good things go to die. Government committees.
That sounds like a Voc Tech thing.
But they did come out and try, and at least they're a little bit in my position here. And the reason I'm saying this is because if they become employees, you're canceling sports. If they become employees, you're markedly going to change the scenario in athletics departments all across the country. And the people who will benefit will be the people with the most money, and the people who will get the biggest kick in the pants are the people with the least amount of money. And that, to me, is where governance is supposed to be. Governance is supposed to keep the playing field level. That's what the NCAA's job is. That's what Charlie Baker's job is. But he just seems really good at giving little press statements and snippets and everything else while watching this thing unfold in the courts without having anybody push back on it. It's just rolled right into here without a stay of an injunction, a court order, anything. Just rolled right in here, and these guys are getting paid gazillions of dollars right now. Okay, it's problematic. It's problematic because you've seen it in the N baseball league, in where they've had gambling. Not talking about Pete Rose either. We're talking about just recently Major League Baseball. It showed up in the NBA. It showed up in NCAA. It showed up everywhere. They're keeping it very quiet because they don't want you to understand how out of control this thing can really get really, really quickly. But like I said before, wait till the street money arrives. Wait till the street money arrives. But this is supposed to be a bill that is to prevent them from becoming employees, but also not to limit their compensation. So that's the fine line they're trying to walk with this thing. And I probably could be okay with that if we, came out with that in the end. Because the day this goes to unionized, their employees, you got to pay them a union wage. All of these states have all sorts of, what's California going to do when they go to $20 an hour for all their employees, for all of the people who are in this organization? What are they going to do?
Fast food chains are already leaving the state. You
have schools losing millions and millions of dollars already. They're going to continue to lose money. All right. So this is about compensation. All right. The bill was 23-16 in committee. All Republicans voted for the bill to limit them as employees, and all Democrats voted against the bill in order to forge and make them employees.
Yep.
All right. Pete, we got a Portal Potty segment. So we're going to give it another graphic here. That's our Portal Potty graphic here. Love it. Okay. We have 722 of 1,330 student athletes have been in the portal for 75 days or longer. That's astonishing. Some of them aren't coming out. Got news for you, fellas. It's a business now. And so we're talking about, unless you're a great player and somebody's going to skirt issue with you and skirt rule and regulation with you, this is how they're going to do it. Great player comes in, they don't have a scholarship. NCAA still has legislation in place that says you're only allowed to give 13 scholarships. Given their record in court lately, Pete, how long is that going to stick around? So they're losing more than the Pistons. Okay? So, and we're going to get into the Pistons in a little bit. When we
I almost rolled out Clarence Frogman Henry. Ain't got no home.
It's unbelievable because this is like, so you have all of these young men that are in limbo right now. So when I say it's math or I say it's basic economics, supply and demand, you have to go out there, and they're limited to 13 scholarships each school. Division II is limited to 10.
But wait a minute, didn't all these players come from other places?
Yeah.
So there's got to be all these openings all over the place. Did the schools just not fill them, or?
No, they get filled, but they get filled with, so you have 12 people leave, and you bring in 12 new people. That doesn't mean your 12 wound up landing somewhere. It just means you chased them out. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some of these gentlemen are being told, hey, you're going in the portal. They don't want to go in the portal. They're not ready to go in the portal, but they're not playing. The coaches made a bad determination about them scholarship-wise, and they're telling them you're going in the portal. So school clears out 12 and brings in 12. That doesn't mean the 12 they cleared out landed someplace. Some of them might have. A lot of them probably, just based on these numbers, have not. But guess where they're not going?
So they can't release them, right? I'll just outright release them from a scholarship. They got to say go in the portal.
Once you're in the portal, they're released. They're out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But the school can't just dismiss them, right? They can't just throw them out of the scholarship. They have to honor that even if they're not playing or it's a bad decision.
The scholarships, if this was a preface to this, I really don't know. But the scholarships a bunch of years back became 1-year renewables.
Oh.
They're no longer 4-year offers. They're 1-year renewable offers, renewable at
so
the
an
end
out
of every single year, and there's an out now. It used to be an out, always an out, but they used to really look down on the coaches that did it, and the ones that were unsavory, they're going to do it anyway. They don't care if anybody looks down on them,
right?
But now you've got a situation where they can do it without impunity. Now they can just run them out. They can run out the bottom 6 guys on their roster, run them out, and bring in 6 new guys. And there's no guarantee that those gentlemen found new homes. There's no guarantee that they're going to find a new home. There's no guarantee that they're not in some JUCO somewhere because their grades fell apart when they found out they were getting chased out.
What a mess.
There's a downside to this, Pete. Yep, there's a downside to this. Okay, here's one of them that would have something that I found while I was looking. Had Danny Hurley gone to the Lakers, everybody on that UConn roster gets 30 days of free portal time.
Ooh.
That's not bad. That I think is okay, because a lot of the rub here was the coaches get to move and groove and do whatever they want and get a payday every single day. Now, when they're making that argument, nobody looks at the other side of it, is that we just got 50 guys fired this year too. Many of them hadn't seen the first turn of their contract. Most of them got fired. The good portion of them got fired before they even entered into their second contract. So you're talking about a 3 to 4 to 5 year period, and they're out of the job already. So the turmoil's always been there, but now it's been codified. Now it's been legalized, and now everybody can move without impunity. The player didn't work out. He might have said something to one of the assistant coaches. Get him out. We got a new guy coming in. There are schools that went 12 for 12. That doesn't mean, again, I'm going to say it again, that doesn't mean their 12 got somewhere. That doesn't mean their 12 got to go somewhere. Okay. The NCAA is considering expansion. Everybody that I've talked to, listened to, is against this. And this is what happens when you have people in power who are doing things that without regard to anything that could happen to them. Like Baker has just let all of this happen without any regard. In a normal person, you lose your job.
Wait a minute. He let all the same stuff happen here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, he's about the best guy to bring in if you want stuff to go the other way, and he's not going to say nothing. I think it's unbelievable, but they're considering expanding the tournament. And again, Baker go, well, we want to have our best talent and our best out on the floor and all this other stuff, and it's just he just reeks of political aroma to me.
Swarminess.
Everything he says is just it's a training. You know, there's a training involved in the linguistics of it all. And if you watch them speak, whether I haven't watched Fox News, MSNBC, or CNN in years, not in years, because I don't like people that lie to me. But anyway, if you ever watch congressional hearings or anything like that, they're trained how to answer these questions by giving you something that's not the answer that you're looking for. Is it hot out today, Pete? Oh, I don't know. It was cold last week, and, somewhere else, I bet it's not as hot as it is here. Is it hot out?
It's funny because the congressmen ask questions which you already know the answer to. So therefore, you ask all your questions, never give the person a chance to answer the question.
And they have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So each guy gets 5 minutes. So it goes back and forth, right? Republican, Democrat. So while the Democrats are in there and it's their guy, they're laying off of him. So every 5 minutes, he's got a rest. They're going to take him in. They're going to blow platitudes his way, and they're going to give him a rest. Then the Republican guy comes on for 5 minutes. All you got to do is eat up his 5 minutes. I'm not sure I recall that. Not sure I remember it that way. Oh, well, maybe it could have been that way, but I don't know. I don't have any recollection of it, And then the 5 minutes is up, and you haven't gotten a single answer out of the guy. There's actually an art form to it. Okay, so let's keep rolling here with the NCAA a little bit. You got all of this live period stuff going on right now. They have had some workouts going around the country, as we've talked about. I have seen online a couple of the workouts. I'm kind of really excited about this Duke team next year. They have a load of young talent, and they have some players that'll be returning. They lost a couple of guys that are here, but they have some great young talent, and they have a young man from the Sudan, 7'2", Cooper Flagg, the number one player in the country. Some other really good pieces there. I think they're ready maybe to go in this year 3, although they're the new Kentucky. They're in with UConn right now as the team that's able to turn their roster over to the NBA. These young men are all going. Paolo Banchero, a lot of the Duke players, Zion Williamson, they're staying a year, and then they're going. And we saw kind of the deleterious impact that had on the Kentucky program. And so we're going to find out if Shire can coach a little bit here, because it's going to come down to take your team. You'll have talent. And talent will take you into the first round, second round of the NCAA. At that point, you're going to get caught in a coaching matchup. In that point, you're going to get caught in an X's and O tussle. And if you don't have what it takes in order to handle that stuff, that's where you're going to really start to lose. So this young team could be very promising and very talented. We'll see now how it all turns out. All right, Pete, we're going to go into NBA fish now, and we'll go back to the Celtics a little bit, because that's what's happening in the NBA. That's what did happen. And I want to get, a take on some different things, but I got a couple of fish things to run through here, and some of them are just going to make you laugh and make you scratch your head. But I want to take you through them. So this is just going to be unbelievable. But again, I want to go back. Ron Holland really impresses me a lot in the draft. That's one of the guys that really, really impresses me. I do not for the life of me understand why Zach Edey is in the position he is in. Donovan Clingan did himself some good this last couple of days. He's moved around. He's moved up. People like his size, like his athletic ability, like his toughness. And so he's moved up a little bit. But I think Filipowski and Edey are kind of being slept on a little bit. I think they'd be really, really good pros for a bit in the NBA. But in the NBA, Fish, you don't get a Boston Celtics being a championship team without great executive leadership. And the Boston Celtics, we alluded to this previously, with the bringing in of Jrue Holiday and bringing in of Porzingis, that made them the champions. That made them really, really into rarefied air in terms of talent, in terms of depth, and in terms of having the right pieces fit together where that team had great chemistry all year long. And I think after I don't know if they had a 2-game losing streak all year long, which would be really something to look at, but they had a very, very strong regular season and then galloped right through the playoffs without any problem at all. They basically went through and they had one game basically where they had a little hiccup. Pete alluded to that. But other than that, they had an unbelievable turn. And so to the victors go, the spoils. Brad Stevens was named NBA Executive of the Year. There's not a lot of surprise to that. I mean, he did a great job. And the young man has had this amazing, amazing career as a coach and as an executive. I mean, he took Butler to the NCAA championship game. He's been the NBA head coach of the Celtics and now the general manager of the Celtics, and he's young. He's a very young guy. I was always interested to see if he'd want to head back to the sidelines, but I think he's kind of found his niche. Let's talk about his number one acquisition of this whole thing, and that was the pickup of Jrue Holiday. One of the things that people understand about Mr. Holiday is that he was all defensive team number of years in a row. And coming into this, I laid it out for the Celtics fans, I thought pretty succinctly. If you have Jrue Holiday able to keep Kyrie Irving out of the lane, because that's where Kyrie Irving lives, then you're going to have a really good chance to win this. Because once he gets in the lane, that opens up Luka. Once he gets in the lane, that opens up some of their other shooters. If you can keep him out of the lane and keep him from being a productive force in the lane, you're going to have a really good shot to win the series. And that's exactly what happened. Jrue Holiday faced up, man-to-man, took it upon himself, and did a great, great job, especially in Game 1 and 2 on Kyrie Irving, where he didn't hit a three-point shot. His totals for the basketball game were just not good. The totals for both games weren't very good, and we're going to talk about that. But Jrue Holiday and Jason Tatum is one of a very, very few people to lead the NBA Finals in points, rebounds, and assists, I believe, and not be the MVP.
Wow.
And you ain't heard a word from him. That's class. That's great dignity for his teammate as well. That's the kind of guy you want in your locker room, and that's why I think the Celtics had that great, great chemistry this year. Jason Tatum, really, really big part of that, as was Jrue Holiday as well. 15.7 points per game. 7.7 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. He did not turn the ball over in 118 minutes of playoff basketball.
Wow.
118 minutes, 0 turnovers. That's why the Celtics were as good as they were on offense, because they were getting the ball into the right hands, getting the ball up in the air, and getting those high-quality value shots that you're looking for. Really, really unbelievable. He was 42% from three-point range. It was great shooting. 42% is an unbelievable number, and he doesn't put up a ton of them. So they were daggers. His three-point shots were daggers. That means you had Tatum covered, you had Brown covered. Porzingis was in and out during this a little bit, but they had that all shut down, and then you move the ball to Holiday, and he kills you with a big, big three. Unbelievable. I thought that he was the difference maker, really, with his defense and with everything else going on. This puts the Celtics in the number one position, rarefied air. It makes them the number one franchise in NBA history. They were tied with the Lakers at 17. They don't want to hear about the Lakers won something before the NBA was formed back in 1942 when Moby Dick was a minnow and Lassie was a puppy. Nobody cares about that. We're talking about the NBA. 17-17's been broken. And the NBA will do everything they can to get the Lakers number 18 next year to make this interesting, to make this valued part of the game. But I don't think they have enough time to rebuild that Lakers roster the way it is right now, in the current shape that it is right now. But
they're going to sell the James and James boys hard.
They are definitely going to do, and I have him going in the 55 pick. I know he's had a couple of workouts this week. We'll talk a little bit about that anymore. Honestly, he doesn't deserve to be drafted. If he was LeBron James's nephew, he doesn't get drafted. He's LeBron James's son. There will be a big bonus. There will be a big value to that. But he doesn't belong getting drafted. I don't mind saying that. Okay, so with the most NBA titles, Pete, the Celtics are number 1. We told you the Lakers were number 2. I'm going to give you a blind guess here. Who do you think is number 3?
Pistons?
Not in a long time. Not in a long
I know,
time.
but they had a good run there for a while, right?
They did, but not high enough. Not high enough. The Warriors are number 7. I was surprised by that. Of course, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen with the Bulls, they had 6. And the Spurs, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and the great point guard they had, Tony Parker, for 5. For 5. Okay, Pete, here's one that's going to make you scratch your head now. Okay?
By the way, before we get off the series,
We can go back to it,
well,
but go ahead.
I want to give Kyrie Irving props. Now, who would have thought I'd ever say that at the beginning of the season?
Pete, I want to slow down there a minute. You sure? You all right?
Yes.
The trip from Alabama?
A video surfaced of him while the Celtics were celebrating, waiting for every single player to get off the court, and he was waiting courtside before he went into the locker room.
Clapped them
shook
up.
all their hands, congratulated them for a good series, and then walked back in. And I'll give him that's class.
Especially the way
That's
he
class.
played.
Right.
Especially the way he played, because there wasn't a lot of great play there. To be honest with you, there wasn't a lot of great play there.
But with his reputation over the years, that's class.
I think that I might not want to be on his team, as a teammate, but I think he's been misunderstood a little bit as well too. But you can't mistake the fact that he's been bounced around a bunch of different places, and a player with that type of talent doesn't generally. They're not moving Jaylen Brown.
Right.
And they're not moving Jason Tatum.
Right.
But they moved him. And so maybe that resonates sometimes along the way, and you mature and you age. I thought he caught a little bit of a bad rap, certainly around the vaccine status that he had.
Yep.
But, I'm with you, Pete. I saw him stand there. I saw him take the heat, and I saw him congratulate coaches, trainers, everybody. He waited for everybody. And I saw him interact with a lot of the Celtics as well, too. And I thought he was very gracious and was a pro.
That wouldn't have happened 5 years ago.
He was a pro. There's a good chance, that some of all of what goes into the whole mix is what makes us.
Yep.
What goes into our whole day is what makes us. And I love it when you do see that growth, because that's what we're looking for.
Yep.
But I think that you also kind of, if you look at sports too, they like villains because they have such good guys. Tom Brady.
You always have to have a heel.
Tom Brady's a great guy. You had to have a villain. You had to find somebody, to go against that. And so I get all of that, But let's go here with a couple of NBA things, because these are just like, I'm going to go in reverse here because this is just way too funny. All right, I'll start out with the Pacers. This isn't funny. This is cool. The Pacers re-signed Pascal Siakam to a Supermax deal. That allows them to keep Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam, their 2 best players, signed up through 28-29. That's really, really good news for the Pacers. Supermax deal, $189.5 million. Bing, 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 bing. Ring that register, Pete. Let it roll, baby. Let it roll. Yeah. And good for them. Good for them. They get to stay together. They're a dynamic duo. They brought the Pacers into relative reality this year and really brought them up, the ladder of the NBA from a place where they weren't necessarily. They're not a major market area. Neither are the Dallas Mavericks. Good to see those teams grow and continue to be a force. I think the NBA right now is positioned well into the future. This draft is going to bring in some new players and some good talent. But right now, the young players in the NBA, as we talked about, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, a lot of those players are on their way out the door. And that would cause a lot of anxiety, especially when Michael Jordan walked out the door. And that's why as much was invested into LeBron James as there was, because you need that next big linchpin. And now as they go through and say, oh, my God, LeBron is 41 and, Durant's getting older and Steph Curry's no young guy anymore, I don't think the NBA is that nervous about what's coming up through the pipeline because they've got some great, great young talent right now that are 19, 20, 21 years old, going to play a long time in the NBA, God willing. And right now I think the NBA itself as a business is positioned well. I might want to think a little bit more about getting defense back into the game a little bit, NBA. I know you love that high-scoring stuff. Basketball people don't care about that. Baseball people don't care about high-scoring games. They love the nuances of the game. They love the fact that the game goes back and forth and has some give and take to it. That's why people enjoy it. They don't just show up for the scoring. And you underestimated your fans when you thought that. You underestimated the knowledge and the talent base of your own fans when you thought that. Oh, we'll just juice the baseball and they'll love it. They didn't. They didn't. And then we'll just make scoring, so easy in the NBA. We'll make defense obsolete. The fans don't like that. The fans don't like that.
I think they wanted to make a ready-made for TV product, and not everybody likes that because not everybody watches on TV. Some people actually go to the games.
I'm with you, Pete. You're the television expert here. You're the guy who sits here day in and day out and knows
NFL is better on TV than it is in person.
Yeah, and
it is.
It really, you have a lot of people out there right now. The onset of social media has brought out, a ton of conspiracy theories, a ton of things that aren't true. It allows you to edit tape. It allows you to go deep fakes, as they're calling right now. Some of this stuff that's been going on in the political forum, the deep fakes, But all in all, though, it has brought a lot of light to different things. It's brought a lot of coverage to different things that weren't necessarily being talked about before.
Yep.
And now to cover something up or to push something under the rug isn't as easy as it used to be.
It's
what you
impossible.
have to do now is wait for something else worse to take its place.
Yeah.
That's what you do now. You just wait. That's why everybody used to drop their bad news on Friday. Because the weekend would come, people wouldn't care, and then before you know it, Monday comes and somebody else is in trouble. Okay, Pete, this one's going to make you laugh. This is in the John Calipari, will that be check or cash segment.
Oh, boy.
The Pistons firing on all Pistons. What an organization this is. This is an organization that belongs right up there with the mafia. I mean, this is unbelievable, this organization. The Detroit Motor City, unbelievable. They have gone ahead and fired, and gotten rid of their coach, Monty Williams, who came over from the Phoenix Suns after he was fired from the Phoenix Suns. Okay? And I just want to let everybody in the NBA know that I'm available for this type of treatment. Mr. Williams coached 1 year. They fired him. It was a bad year. The Pistons are awful. They're the worst team in all of the NBA right now, and they're getting worse. But they just decided to fire their coach after 1 year with the worst roster in the entire NBA. Maybe there's a few NCAA teams that could beat the Pistons as well. I'd put the UConn Huskies right up there. They'd give the Pistons everything they could handle right now. Okay? They went ahead and fired Coach Williams. $65 million they're going to pay him not to coach the team. Please, I'm begging somebody. Bring me in. Give me a contract, $70 million. Make me stay for 1 year. Torture me with a 4-67 record. Make it the worst year of my life. But then give me $65 million as you kick my butt right out the door. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Please, somebody do that to me. And as you know how that NBA carousel goes, Mr. Williams might wind up in L.A. He might be the new coach of the Lakers. LeBron give him a call on the phone and say,
Does
hey.
he still get the $67 million, or is he whatever his new contract is?
No. He's got the $65 million. Go on. That's not relative. A lot of times there are contracts like that where the contract will only pay you the differential. But this one's $65 million, and if that was the case, if I was him, for the next 5 years, I'd head to a foreign country, get a pink pina colada drink, and sit there with the straw in there and just collect every single dollar that they have.
Here, wait a minute, hold on.
Here comes the money. Here we go. Money talk. Here comes the money.
It's raining men. It's raining men. And it's men. The men are the presidents. It's pictures of the presidents are raining down on Monty Williams. $65 million. Pistons, get ready for the draft. Get ready for the draft. Ron Holland's better than either one of the Thompson twins. I'm going to say it right now. Ron Holland is better than either one of the Thompson twins. Okay, back into our death by the jump shot segment, Pete. We got to take these two guys to task because they're the two reasons that the Dallas Mavericks made the finals. Kyrie Irving and Luka. Luka Doncic was the in-the-zone MVP of the regular season, without question. He was not the MVP of the playoffs because his jump shot abandoned him. His jump shot went MIA. His shot selection was awful. The Celtics defended and frustrated him extremely, extremely well. Kyrie, from three-point range for the series, 8 for 29. 27% in the biggest series of the life of these two gentlemen. He was 0 in the first two games. So some of this stuff came on, and a lot of this stuff, if you look at the box score as I went through each box score, that one game where the Mavericks obliterated the Celtics, that's why I said it wasn't a great series. Because the Celtics handled them almost every single time out. And the one time the Mavericks made a run, they absolutely manhandled the Celtics. And that game wasn't any fun to watch either because it was a 25-point blowout by halftime.
Right.
So nobody wants to watch that. Okay, I don't know what you got to do.
Bed, so.
I don't know what you got to do to fix that. But on the 2-point level, he was 41 of 99. 41.41%. Not great. Not great. When we get to the other side with our MVP, Luka, it's worse. 11 for 45 from three-point range, 24%. I don't want to hang anything on anybody, but when you're the number 1, 2 dogs in the reason, they're going to say you're the number 1 and 2 reason that they lost as well. And so when we go 59 of 125 total shots, that's 47%, which isn't that bad. But his absolute ability, the drought that hit, is what happens when you live by the jump shot. I say that to my players. I say that to people all the time. Because when you shoot three-point shots, you very rarely get fouled.
Right, yeah.
And so you're not going to get free
drive
throws.
to the paint.
You got to get into the paint. Yeah. You got to get in and mix it up. You got to post up. You got to do a lot of different things. I'll put that on the coaching staff as well. Okay? But the death by jump shot segment, just unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. Boston Celtics are the 2024 champs. We're going to walk you through just how they got there. Big celebration in Boston tomorrow, Pete. Right? They have the parade tomorrow.
Duck boat parade.
Going to be hot. Let's make sure people are safe out there at the parade. Let's make sure people are being respectful out there at the parade.
My nephew John is going down there, so.
Oh, let's make sure we're hydrating at the parade
I told him.
Make sure.
And not just hydrating with beer.
Oh, that's not hydrating.
I know that's not.
Dehydrating, unfortunately.
He's a kid, though.
But I've done a lot of that in my time, too. I was in Strawberry Fields for the Beach Boys, and it was 100 degrees in New York, and it was just sweltering. There was 100,000 people packed into Strawberry Fields that day. And I'm not sure I had any water that day, Pete. Not sure I had any water that day. I'm feeling the effects of it still to this day, I think, 40 years later. But again, here I'm going to give you anybody going to the parade, I'm going to give you a coach's tip. All right? Pre-hydrate.
Yep.
Drink a bunch of water before you get out there. a lot of water. Drink a bunch of it before you get out there. While you're out there, keep drinking it. Keep going. When you get home, drink some more because your hydration process to the body is critical in that heat. If you don't have your body hydrated, it's going to start to feed on itself. Come on, be smart. We don't want anybody getting hurt out there. All right. What struck me the most about this series, Celtics and Mavericks? Celtics didn't really have any peer in this entire playoffs. They really didn't. They were amazing. And Coach Mazzulla has taken a lot of heat and a lot of different stuff over the years. He came out and was talking openly of his Christian faith.
Did you see what he said?
Talking about his faith in God. Talking about when they asked him about the royal family, he goes, "Do you mean the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost?" I thought that was the greatest answer. When the royal family came to see one of the Celtics games, he just, "No, I didn't meet them." And he said, "You talk about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost," and for some reason that drives people crazy.
Did you see what he said about said where you're going to go? He says, "You going to Disneyland?" He goes, "No, I'm taking my team to Jerusalem."
That's it. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. And he really, really, has a good relationship with his players. I saw him and Brown talking, and they're having an exchange. And Brown goes to him, "When he gives it up, I'm not letting him get it back. Okay, he's going to give the ball up. I'm not going to let him catch it back." And he was talking about Luka. He was talking about Kyrie on their coverage teams. And Mazzulla was right there with him. 100%. No, we're not letting him catch it. We're taking him out. Once he gives it up, we're taking him out. He's not getting him back. And that means that you're going to take yourself out of the team defensive format and only focus on this one guy. It's a little tricky, but they did a very, very good job of it. Here's a question that I have for our fans. Were the Celtics, and I'm going to answer the question affirmatively now for everybody so that they can know where I stand on this and then make their own decision about this. But were the Celtics better without Porzingis?
Wow, good question.
Were the Celtics better without Porzingis? I say yes, they were.
Only because Horford got hot.
And Horford's a pro.
And he might not be good for an entire 82-game season, but he was hot in the finals and the playoffs.
He delivers. If you go back to when he was at Florida, they won back-to-back titles all that time, and he was huge there. Hit big shots, made big baskets. He's clutch. And he waited a long time for this title. So when he stepped in there, he was like, "I'm not letting this one slip away." They had some really, really good performance from the Celtics, but that did not run into the NBA championship. They've been in the Eastern Conference final like 6 times, and so there's been a great run there, but an unrequited run as well, which is now, for Horford especially, you got to be really happy.
Shall we call him the Julian Edelman of the Celtics?
Oh, that's a great one, Pete. That's a great one. He really is. He really is their unsung hero, clutch guy, and a guy. Tom Brady had a lot of confidence in Edelman, and a guy that Mazzulla had a lot of confidence in him too. Because when Porzingis went down, they put him in. They were putting him right into the rotation. He was right into their playbook, right there, and really did a great job.
Yep.
I was happy to report that Jaylen Brown, he's such a class gentleman, speaks so many languages, just his interviews. This is what's really, really exciting me about the Celtics, is not only did they win and have a great basketball team, but they won with Boston Celtics class and dignity. This team won with a Boston Celtics, John Havlicek, Bill Russell, work ethic, but also with a dignity. They were very, very good and worthy champions, and I'm excited about that. Brown and Tatum, if you got a better 1-2 punch in the NBA right now, you tell me who they are. They were 16-3, Pete, their record. The Warriors in 2016 had a better run than that. But again, I thought Moses Malone went 4-4-4. But if anybody wants to clear that up for me, please go ahead. Up until last night, the night before, when the Celtics won, they had won more playoff games over the last 8 years than anybody in the NBA that did not win a title.
Wow.
So this is 6 trips to the Eastern Conference Final. 2022 loss to the Warriors when they were up 2-1 in the series. So all of that now comes back for these players, for gentlemen who've been on this franchise for a really, really long time. This is something special. This is something that Boston can be really, really proud of. And since I moved here, okay, I want to go back to 1998. I want you folks to think about what has happened in New England since I moved here. I'm not claiming credit for it, but go ahead, give me credit for it. The Boston Red Sox, all of those years, unrequited, no championships. Bang, bang. They took out my Yankees while I was sitting here watching as a young basketball coach at Westfield State. The Patriots have been absolutely the dominant team of the NFL. And now you have the Celtics taking the crown as the number one team. That's got to be great for Boston fans. Got to be exciting for them. The 6 trips to the Eastern Conference Final, unbelievable.
And sprinkle in a few Boston Bruins Stanley Cups, too.
Oh, yeah, the Bruins. You know, I'm not a great hockey fan, but they're unbelievable. Tatum and Brown have 107 games together. That's the chemistry you're talking about, Pete, with Luka and Kyrie trying to find it. Mm-hmm. They hadn't fully developed that, not to the level that these guys have. 107 games straight together, playing together, just doing really, really good stuff. Tatum had the 5th most career playoff points. Okay? Wow. I'm going to give you the 4. And he did not get the MVP. And you didn't hear a word out of him. That's class. That's dignity. That's being happy, as the Dalai Lama says. You must want for your friends or your teammates and colleagues that which you want for yourself the very most. So as Jason Tatum, I'm sure he would have loved to be MVP of this series, but you got to want it for Jaylen Brown as much as you want it for yourself, because it's your teammate. It's done in the sphere of winning. It's done in the sphere of getting it done and doing it over a course of a really, really long season. That really is satisfying. And I think Jason Tatum is just a consummate NBA pro as well with that. But we have Jerry West, LeBron, Dirk Nowitzki, and Kevin Durant. Those are the gentlemen that have more points than Jason Tatum. So that's rarefied air,
yeah,
Mr. Tatum, and solidifies you as an NBA bona fide. Solidifies you as one of the great players in the game, but also now has that championship ring, which a lot of people, I've never been, a guy who says you got to have a ring in order to be considered one of the greats of all time. I've never been that way, but I think it helps. When we're adding up a resume and we're putting it all together. Would you consider Oscar Robertson one of the greatest of the game if he did not team up with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and win it with the Milwaukee Bucks? Mm-hmm. You'd have to. He averaged a triple-double. Mm-hmm. Of course you would. But he did win it, but there are a lot of players out there.
The title puts you over the top.
It does put you over the top. It does have a certain mark to it. It does certainly put it over. But there's a lot of guys that have never, ever had the luxury or the great fortune to win an NBA, NCAA, any kind of title, and there's still some great players out there. Maybe we'll do a show on them, Pete. Some of the unsung heroes. The Mavericks, when we got to them, you had 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 didn't show. Kyrie, 13 of 37 in game 1 and 2. That's where you're going to make your money. You're in Boston. You don't like the Boston fans. You stepped on Mr. Lucky. You can't come out and go 0 for 8 from three-point range and just drop it like that in the bucket, because when you're down 2-0 in a series, you basically have very, very little chance to come back. When you get down 3-0, there's about 100 teams that have gone before you that did not come back. Once you get down 3-0, that's a shot. Yeah. Okay, the Red Sox came back 3-0, but in basketball, doesn't seem to happen that much. Luka, 12 of 25, 2 of 9 in the first 2 games. Again, that's where you got to get going. That's where you got to get off. That's where you have to make your money, and both of them failed miserably. Got to call it like it is. Okay? Teams in the NBA are now 0 and 157 in the postseason after losing 0-3. Okay, I'm going to say that again. They are 0 and 157 losses in a row once you get down 3-0. It's the absolute death knell in NBA basketball. Getting down 3-0 has been absolutely nobody has ever eclipsed that. Now, in NCAA, we had a situation where the 16th seed had never lost to a 1. We've had that happen twice now. So keep your eyes on this NBA stat right there that I think you're, going to get, You're going to get some blowback on that a little bit, maybe. You're going to see some team that's 0-3 come back and make it all the way through. The NBA is about having stories. It's about entertainment. That would be entertaining as well. I do want to take, I think we got about a minute, Pete, right?
Yep.
I do want to take a little bit of a shot at the Mavericks, though, as we close out here, because we talked about the Celtics and we did talk about the Mavericks. Great run through there, beating 3 number 1 seeds, really doing a great job. But when they got to the final, the biggest time, the biggest stage, they absolutely laid an egg. And their defense in this series was absolutely pitiful. Luka Doncic, for the first couple of games, walked around there like Julius Randle from the Knicks. He looked around like Claude Rains. He looked like he was the invisible man. You're down by 26 points in an elimination game. Tell me that you quit without telling me that you quit. All right? You'll get paid a lot of money. You'll get paid a lot of dough. And you're on television every single day as a role model to some of these young players coming up. Bend down. Bend your knees and get in a defensive stance, because that's why the Celtics beat you. Because Jaylen Brown went to his coach and said when he gives it up, he's not getting it back. But when Luka's guy gave it up, he got it back, drove right around them all the way to the basket, left every one of their other guys rotating and scrambling, and that's not basketball. I was very disappointed in Mr. Doncic's performance and very, very disappointed in the overall defensive performance of the Mavericks. How did you think you would win that series? Did you think you'd shoot them out? You'd think you'd outshoot the Celtics? Did you really think that? Well, you miscalculated, folks, and the Boston Celtics are number 18, and the Dallas Mavericks are going to go down as the team that led them to number 18 because you didn't play any defense. There's a D in Dallas, but it doesn't stand for defense. Pete, we'll see you next week. Have a great week, folks. We love being back in the zone. It's hot out there. Make sure you stay hydrated. Get in a pool. Get the ocean. Get somewhere hot. And get in there and cool off. See you next week, folks.